The Nova Motel's sign flickered pathetically against Cerberus Nine's perpetual dusk. One more broken promise on a mining colony full of them. Elliot Vance swiped his nearly maxed credit chip and winced at the remaining balance. 3 days until the next transport off this rock, if he was lucky. Room 17, announced the automated system, its voice garbled from years of neglect. Enjoy your stay at Nova, where every guest is a star. Elliot snorted. The only stars here were the ones barely visible through the colony's polluted atmosphere. He shouldered his duffel, containing everything he still owned in the universe, and limped down the corridor. The old shrapnel wound in his thigh always acted up in low-pressure environments like this one. Room 17 was exactly what he expected. A sleep pod masquerading as a proper room, with worn synthetic sheets and a hygiene cubicle barely large enough to turn around in. The air recycler wheezed asthmatically in the corner. Home sweet home. He collapsed onto the bed, the events of the past week catching up to him. The transport malfunction that had stranded him here. The condescending pity from the station manager. The realization that after 8 years of military service, 3 combat tours, and 1 dishonorable discharge, he had nothing to show for it but nightmares and a permanent limp. His stomach growled, reminding him he hadn't eaten since the transport station. He thumbed the ancient room console. Standard meal package, he muttered. Whatever's cheapest. The system beeped its acknowledgement, and Elliot closed his eyes, allowing exhaustion to pull him under. The knock startled him awake. He hadn't meant to fall asleep, but the chronometer showed 30 minutes had passed. Another knock, more insistent this time. Coming, he grumbled, swinging his legs off the bed. Better be worth the credits. The door slid open, and Elliot's words died in his throat. She wasn't human, that was his first thought. His second was that she was beautiful in a way that made his chest ache. She stood nearly as tall as him, with skin like burnished silver that seemed to capture and refract the dim corridor light. Her eyes were deep violet, large and slightly tilted at the corners. She wore flowing robes of some iridescent material that shifted between blue and purple with each breath, and she was looking at him with an expression of recognition. Room 17, she asked, her voice melodic despite the translator harmonics that overlaid it. Elliot nodded, speechless for once in his life. She stepped forward, graceful despite the food tray she carried. Without waiting for invitation, she entered his room, the door sliding shut behind her. Elliot finally found his voice. I just ordered synthetic protein. Whatever's standard. The alien woman set the tray down carefully on the room's small side table. It held nothing but a simple cup of steaming liquid. I am not standard, she said, and the translator couldn't quite capture the subtle humor in her tone. And neither are you, Elliot Vance. His hand instinctively moved toward the compact pulse pistol hidden in his jacket. How do you know my name? The same way I know many things. She gestured to the room around them. This meeting was arranged, though not by either of us. Lady, I just checked in an hour ago. Nothing about this was arranged. Her head tilted slightly. The colony's systems are imperfect. The motel's registration AI assigned you to a room designated for the Interspecies Refugee Protection Program. I was told a human ally awaited me here. A small smile touched her lips. You. Elliot ran a hand through his short hair. There's been a mistake. I'm not part of any program. I'm just waiting for transport off this rock. There is no mistake. Her violet eyes held his with unsettling intensity. I am Thalia of House Lumen, last daughter of Celeris. And in the dream threads of my people, I have seen your face many times. Elliot Vance. She stepped closer, and Elliot caught a scent like exotic spices and ozone. You do not believe in destiny, she said, not a question but a statement. Neither did I, until the dream seers spoke of a human man with stars in his blood and war in his eyes, a man who would appear when all seemed lost. Elliot swallowed hard. Look, I'm not. You bear a wound here, she interrupted, her slender hand hovering over his thigh without touching it. From a battle near Proxima, you dream of fire in the sky and voices you could not save. The room felt suddenly too small, too close. How could she know about Proxima? About the nightmares? "What do you want from me?" he asked, his voice rougher than intended. Thalia's expression softened. "Safety. For now. Tomorrow, perhaps something more." She glanced at the narrow bed, then back to him. "I have nowhere else to go. My people are hunted. The dreams led me here, to you." Elliot should have called Motel security, should have insisted on the mistake being corrected, should have maintained the careful isolation he cultivated since his discharge. Instead, he found himself saying, "Take the bed. I'll sleep on the floor." The smile that illuminated her silver features made something long dormant stir in his chest, and as Cerberus 9's artificial night cycle began, Elliot Vance, who had stopped believing in anything at all, found himself wondering if the universe might sometimes make mistakes that weren't mistakes after all. Morning on Cerberus 9 arrived with the artificial brightening of the habitat dome rather than any actual sunrise. Elliot woke with a stiff neck, the thin carpet having done little to cushion his night on the floor. For a moment, he wondered if he'd dreamed the silver-skinned woman. But there she was, perched on the edge of his bed, her violet eyes studying him with unbridled curiosity. Thalia had removed her outer robes, revealing a simple fitted garment beneath that accentuated her slender yet strong frame. "Your breathing changes when you dream," she observed. "Do all humans experience night terrors?" Elliot sat up, wincing. "Not all. Just the lucky ones." He reached for his jacket, suddenly conscious of his rumpled appearance. "Do all Solarians watch people sleep?" "Only those of interest." The translator couldn't quite capture the musical lilt in her voice. "You spoke names. Ramirez, Donovan. Were they your battle kin?" Elliot's jaw tightened. "They were under my command, and they're dead because of a decision I made." He stood abruptly. "I need to use the hygiene unit." In the tiny cubicle, he splashed recycled water on his face and tried to collect himself. How had she pierced so quickly to the core of his nightmares? The squadron lost at Proxima had been classified. His discharge terms strictly forbade discussing the incident. Yet this alien woman seemed to read him like an open transmission. When he emerged, she had arranged the meager breakfast rations on the small table. Synthetic protein cubes, a nutrition paste tube, and 2 cups of the strange aromatic beverage she brought the night before. "Your world has protocols for sharing a dwelling?" she asked, gesturing to the food. "Depends on the dwelling. And the company." He sat across from her, the tiny table forcing their knees to nearly touch. "What exactly is the Interspecies Refugee Protection Program?" Thalia's expression darkened. After the Helios Accord, when colonization rights were established in the Orient sector, provisions were made for displaced populations. She sipped her drink. 3 lunar cycles ago, Solaris was attacked by those seeking our genetic material. We possess certain qualities of interest to weapons developers. What qualities? In answer, she extended her hand. "May I?" Hesitantly, Elliot placed his palm against hers. An immediate warmth spread up his arm, and with it came a whisper of emotion, not his own. Concern. Caution. Hope. He jerked back, startled. "Empathic transference," she explained. "All Solarians can sense emotional states. Some, like me, can share them." Her eyes took on a haunted quality. A useful trait for understanding alien species, or for manipulating their soldiers in combat. The implications clicked into place. Someone's weaponizing your people's abilities. The hegemony claims its research. My family. Her voice caught. My entire house. Called it extinction. She met his gaze. "I carry evidence that would expose their program. If I can reach the Alliance embassy on Taurus Prime." A sudden pounding at the door interrupted them. "Colony security. Open up for inspection." Elliot moved with military precision, grabbing Thalia's outer robes and shoving them under the bed. "Bathroom." he whispered urgently. "Stay quiet." She slipped into the hygiene unit as Elliot composed himself and opened the door to two uniformed officers. "Routine check," said the taller one, already pushing past him into the room. "Reports of unregistered off-worlders." "Just me," Elliot said with practiced casualness. "Transport malfunction. Stuck here 3 more days." The second officer scanned the room while his partner scrutinized Elliot. "2 meal portions," he noted, pointing to the table. "I get hungry," Elliot shrugged. "Military metabolism." "Former military," the officer corrected, checking his handheld. "Dishonorable discharge." "Proxima incident." Elliot's smile didn't reach his eyes. "The food here's still better than military rations." After what felt like an eternity, they left. Thalia emerged slowly, her normally silver skin pale to the color of ash. "They're hunting for Solarians," she whispered. "How did they track me here so quickly?" "They didn't," Elliot reassured her, though uncertainty gnawed at him. "Random sweep." "There are no random events, Elliot Vance," she said, moving to stand before him. "Just as there was no mistake in our meeting." Her hand reached toward his face, hesitating just short of contact. "In my dreams, you always made the same choice. Will you make it now?" Their eyes locked, and in that moment, something shifted between them, a recognition that transcended species. The lonely ex-soldier and the hunted alien woman, both adrift in a hostile universe. "What choice?" he asked softly. "To help me," she answered. "To believe that your path and mine are bound together by forces greater than either of us understand." Outside, the mining colony's machinery rumbled on, indifferent to the alliance being forged in room 17 of the Nova Motel. An alliance that would soon shake the foundations of 2 worlds. The colony's central hub buzzed with activity as Elliot hunched over a public terminal, his body positioned to shield the screen from prying eyes. Thalia stood nearby, her silver skin concealed beneath a hooded cloak he purchased from a street vendor using his dwindling credits. 3 security sweeps in 2 days, he muttered, fingers flying over the interface. "They're definitely looking for someone." Using access codes that technically no longer belonged to him, Elliot had tapped into military channels. What he found made his blood run cold. "They've put out an alert for a high-value Solarian asset," he told Thalia, keeping his voice low. "Reward for information. Bigger reward for capture." She moved closer, her scent, like thunderstorms and exotic spices, momentarily distracting him. "What do they say I possess?" "Classified biotechnology. Stolen research materials." He scrolled further. "Nothing about evidence of illegal experiments." "Truth is always the first casualty," she said, a note of bitterness in her translator-enhanced voice. The terminal suddenly flashed, security protocols engaging. Elliot quickly disconnected, but not before catching a final alert. "All transport vessels grounded for inspection." "We can't stay at the motel," he said, guiding her into the crowd. "And we can't leave the planet. Not through official channels." Thalia's violet eyes met his. "In my dream threads, we always found a path forward." "These dream threads of yours?" Elliot asked as they navigated through the busy mining colony corridors. "Do they show how this ends?" "They show possibilities, not certainties. In some, we succeed. In others—" She didn't finish the thought. They ducked into a cramped supply tunnel, used by maintenance workers to access the colony's infrastructure. The lighting was poor, casting everything in shadows. "You don't really believe in all this destiny stuff, do you?" Elliot asked, checking his stolen security clearance map. "That we were meant to meet." Thalia paused, her head tilting in that distinctly non-human way. "On Celaris, we do not see time as you do, a straight line from past to future. We see connections, threads weaving together, some stronger than others." Her fingers nearly touched his face. "The thread between us has always been strong." A distant sound stopped them both. The distinctive clatter of security boots. "They're in the maintenance tunnels," Elliot whispered. "How?" "Someone is tracking us," Thalia said, her empathic senses clearly detecting something beyond his human perception. Their intent is focused, predatory. Bounty hunters. It had to be. The reward must be substantial to attract that kind of attention. This way, Elliot urged, taking her hand and pulling her down a narrower passage. The contact sent a jolt through his system, not just physical, but something deeper, as if for a moment their consciousness had touched. They ran through the dimly lit tunnels, the sounds of pursuit growing closer. At a junction, Elliot made a split-second decision, choosing the path that led toward the colony's waste reclamation center. Few would willingly go there. The passage narrowed further, pipes hissing with steam and toxic waste. The air grew thick, difficult to breathe. Almost there, Elliot gasped. Just a little. He never saw the fallen debris. His injured leg caught, twisting violently, and he fell with a muffled cry of pain. Something metal had sliced deep into his thigh, blood already soaking through his pants. Thalia was beside him instantly. "We cannot stop," she urged, trying to help him up. Elliot tried to stand, but his leg buckled. "Go," he hissed through clenched teeth. "The reclamation center has access to the exterior service hatches. You might make it." "No." Her voice was firm, unyielding. "That is not our path." Before he could protest, she placed both hands on his wounded thigh. Her touch burned like ice and fire simultaneously, and Elliot had to bite back a scream. Then something extraordinary happened. Images flooded his mind. A crystalline city beneath twin moons, children with silver skin playing in purple fields, a laboratory where silver bodies lay motionless on tables, flames consuming everything, a desperate flight across stars. Thalia's memories. Just as quickly, the connection broke. Elliot looked down to see the bleeding had stopped, the wound already knitting together beneath torn fabric. "How did you?" "Cellular regeneration," she explained, her skin now paler, her breathing labored. "Another quality the hegemony covets. It requires energy." She swayed slightly. Elliot caught her, amazed he could now stand. "You shouldn't have." "In every thread where we succeeded," she interrupted, "we survived together, or not at all." The sounds of pursuit had grown louder. With newfound strength, Elliot lifted Thalia into his arms and continued through the tunnel. Her head rested against his chest, her silver skin shimmering with exertion. "I saw your world," he whispered, "your memories." "And I felt yours," she replied softly. "Your guilt, your pain." Her violet eyes seemed to glow in the dim light. "You did not betray your battle kin, Elliot. You were betrayed by those who sent you there." Something broke inside him, a dam holding back years of self-recrimination and doubt. Later, he would examine this moment, this connection that transcended physical understanding. But now, they needed to survive. They emerged into the vast, foul-smelling reclamation center just as the first bounty hunter rounded the corner behind them. Elliot ducked behind a processing unit, Thalia still cradled against him, their breaths mingling in the toxic air. "I don't know if I believe in destiny," he whispered against her silver temple. "But I believe in you." Her smile was like starlight in darkness. "Then for now, that is enough." "You're a damn fool, Vance," growled Harlow, a weathered man with a cybernetic eye that never seemed to stop scanning, "risking your neck for an alien, and a Solarian, no less." They were in an abandoned mining shaft converted into a smuggler's den, deep beneath Cerberus 9's surface. After evading the bounty hunters in the reclamation center, Elliot had reached out to the only person he knew might help, an old war comrade now operating on the wrong side of the law. "She saved my life," Elliot replied, watching Thalia across the room where she conversed quietly with another displaced alien, a four-armed Vexian engineer. "She's worth a fortune to the right people," Harlow said, his voice dropping. "That data she's carrying about the hegemony's experiments. Lot of powerful interests would pay to keep it buried." Elliot's eyes narrowed. "I didn't tell you about any data," Harlow's mechanical eye whirred as it focused. Information's my business now, soldier boy. Nothing moves through this sector I don't hear about. He clapped Elliot's shoulder. I can get you both off-world. Tomorrow. But it'll cost you. I'm tapped out. You know that. Not talking about credits. Harlow nodded toward Thalia. I want what she's carrying. Elliot stiffened. So you can sell it to the highest bidder. So I can survive, Harlow countered. Same reason you used to follow orders. Remember. The reminder stung. Elliot had followed orders at Proxima, even when they didn't make sense. That loyalty had cost 18 lives and earned him a dishonorable discharge when he questioned the official story. Think it over, Harlow said. Ship leaves at 600. Either you're both on it, with the data as payment, or you can take your chances with the bounty hunters. He walked away, leaving Elliot with an impossible choice. Later, in the small storage room Harlow had offered them for the night, Thalia sat cross-legged on a threadbare mattress. The space was barely larger than the motel room, but somehow felt more secure. For now. Your friend plans to betray us, she said without preamble. His emotions are mercenary. Elliot leaned against the wall, exhausted. Harlow's complicated. We served together. He saved my life once. And now you feel obligated to trust him, she observed, her violet eyes unnervingly perceptive. I don't trust anyone, Elliot corrected. After a pause, he added, except maybe you, which makes no sense at all. Thalia rose with fluid grace and moved to stand before him. It makes perfect sense. We are connected now. The memory of their shared consciousness in the tunnel, her healing touch, and the exchange of memories remained vivid. Because of what happened when you healed me. That merely strengthened what was already there. She took his hand, and again came that rush of warmth, that sense of another presence alongside his own consciousness, gentle yet unmistakable. On Celeris, this connection is sacred, rare even between our own kind. Between species, it is. She searched for the word. Unprecedented. What does it mean? He asked, acutely aware of how close she stood, how her silver skin seemed to glow in the dim light. It means we are bound, she answered simply. What you feel, I feel. What I know, you may know. If you wish it. The implication hung between them, heavy with possibility. This was more than physical attraction, though that existed too. This was something he'd never experienced, never even imagined possible. Show me, he whispered. Thalia placed her palms on either side of his face, and the world dissolved. They were everywhere and nowhere, floating among stars, diving through oceans of memory, spiraling through emotional landscapes, both alien and familiar. He felt her loneliness, her determination, her fear, and beneath it all, a growing affection for the damaged human soldier who had become her unlikely protector. She, in turn, experienced his guilt, his disillusionment, his newfound purpose in protecting her. When the connection finally ebbed, they found themselves entangled on the narrow mattress, foreheads pressed together, breathing in synchrony. Their clothes remained in place, yet Elliot had never experienced anything so intimate, so profoundly connecting. That was, he struggled for words. Among my people, it is called the joining, she explained softly. It is permanent. Alarm flashed through him. Permanent. You mean? We will always sense each other now, feel each other's strongest emotions, know when the other is in danger. Her fingers traced his jawline. Does this disturb you? Strangely, it didn't. After years of isolation, of keeping everyone at arm's length, the thought of being genuinely connected to someone felt like water in a desert. What happens if one of us dies? He asked, practical even now. Sadness flickered across her features. The survivor carries both souls. It can be overwhelming. Many do not recover. They lay in silence, absorbing the implications of what had transpired between them. Outside their sanctuary, dangers gathered. Harlow's betrayal loomed. The hegemony's agents searched, yet in this moment, wrapped in each other's presence, Elliot felt a peace he'd thought forever lost at Proxima. "We can't give Harlow the data," he finally said. "Too many of your people died for it. And we cannot remain here," she added. "I sense many minds now searching. Hungry minds. Dangerous." Elliot sat up, military training reasserting itself. "Then we need a new plan." He reached for his tattered jacket. "The colony's communication hub. If we could access it, broadcast your evidence to multiple systems simultaneously." They would guard such a facility heavily. "Yes," he agreed, a grim smile forming. "But they won't be expecting us to walk right through the front door." As night cycles settled over the mining colony, they planned by the light of a single power cell, fingers intertwined, minds occasionally brushing against each other's consciousness. They prepared for what might be their final stand. And somewhere in the smuggler's den, Harlow spoke quietly into a secure comm channel, arranging the most profitable betrayal of his career. Dawn on Cerberus 9 arrived with the artificial brightening of the habitat dome and the wail of security sirens. Elliot and Talia moved through maintenance corridors toward the colony's communication hub, dressed in technician uniforms stolen from Harlow's supplies. "Harlow sold us out hours ago," Elliot said, checking the stolen security badge that would grant them access to the lower levels. "They'll be expecting us to try for the spaceport." Thalia's silver skin was dulled with a cosmetic coating, her violet eyes concealed behind standard-issue work goggles. "I can feel their search patterns, concentrated near the docking bays." The connection between them had strengthened overnight, allowing Thalia to extend her empathic senses through Elliot, creating a kind of perimeter awareness that had already helped them avoid 2 security patrols. They reached a service entrance to the hub, a massive structure that housed the colony's communication arrays. Elliot swiped the badge, and the door slid open with a hydraulic hiss. "Remember," he said quietly, "we walk like we belong here." "Maintenance check on transmitter array 7. She nodded, falling into step beside him as they entered the busy facility. Colony workers moved purposefully around them, none giving the pair more than a passing glance. Their disguises were working, for now. They had nearly reached the central transmission floor when Elliot felt it, a cold spike of alarm through their shared connection. Thalia had sensed something. Danger, her thoughts brushed against his. Familiar presence, from before. He followed her subtle glance toward a man in a hegemony military uniform, speaking with the facility's security chief. Even from this distance, recognition hit Elliot like a physical blow. Commander Drazen, the man who had given the orders at Proxima. The man who had sacrificed Elliot's squadron to cover up a botched weapons test. The man who had engineered his dishonorable discharge when Elliot began asking questions. "It's him," he whispered, shock rippling through their bond. "The one, who ordered the first tests on my people," Thalia finished, picking the knowledge from their shared consciousness. He was there, in the laboratory memories. Everything suddenly clicked into place. Proxima hadn't been a simple military exercise gone wrong. It had been connected to the Solarian experiments all along. Drazen wasn't just here for Thalia. He was here to eliminate anyone who might connect those dots. Without discussion, they changed tactics, moving away from the central floor toward an auxiliary control room. If they couldn't access the main transmitter, they would use a secondary system, less range, but still enough to reach Alliance space. They slipped into the empty room, and Elliot immediately began bypassing security protocols on the communication console. Thalia removed a small crystalline device from beneath her uniform. The evidence they had risked everything to deliver. "How long?" she asked, watching the door. 2 minutes to break encryption, he replied, fingers moving with practiced efficiency. Another 30 seconds to configure the broadcast. He glanced up at her. "It'll work." She smiled, that expression that still made his heart stutter. "In every dream thread where we succeeded, you always said those words." The console chimed as the encryption fell. Elliot quickly began setting up a multi-point transmission that would beam Thalia's data to 17 different Alliance outposts simultaneously. Impossible to intercept all of them. 30 seconds, he murmured. The door slid open. Touching, said Commander Drazen, flanked by 2 security officers with weapons drawn. The traitor and the test subject, working together. His cold eyes assessed them both. Did you really think disguises would fool facial recognition software? Elliot positioned himself between Thalia and the weapons. It got us this far. Only because I allowed it, Drazen countered. I wanted to see where you'd go, who you'd contact. His smile never reached his eyes. Harlow was particularly helpful. For a price. It's over, Commander, Elliot said, aware that behind him, the transmission was completing its preparation sequence. Just a few more seconds. The Alliance will know everything. Proxima, the Solarian experiments, all of it. The Alliance, Drazen scoffed, will receive nothing. He nodded to one of his men, who moved toward the console. What happened next occurred so quickly that later, Elliot would struggle to separate his memories from Thalia's. Through their bond, he felt her gather her strength, the same energy she had used to heal him, but focused differently. Silver light erupted from her body, momentarily blinding everyone in the room. In that instant of confusion, Elliot moved. Years of combat training took over as he disarmed the nearest guard and used him as a shield against the second. Thalia, meanwhile, had reached the console and slammed her palm down on the transmission initiator. The system chimed its confirmation. Multi-point transmission complete. Drazen's face contorted with rage. He raised his own weapon, aiming not at Elliot but at Thalia. If I can't contain this, I can at least eliminate the source. No. Elliot lunged forward, but he knew he wouldn't reach her in time. The shot never came. Instead, Drazen froze, his eyes widening in confusion. Thalia stood with one hand extended toward him, silver energy crackling between her fingers. Through their bond, Elliot felt the immense strain this was causing her, a Solarian ability used only in the most desperate circumstances. Neural disruption, she gasped, clearly struggling to maintain the effect. I cannot hold him long. Elliot didn't waste the opportunity. He crossed the room in 2 strides and knocked Drazen unconscious with a precise blow. The remaining guard had already fled, presumably to call for reinforcements. Alarms blared throughout the facility. They had minutes, at most. The evidence is transmitted, Thalia said, leaning against the console, her strength clearly depleted. It's done. Elliot took her hand, feeling her exhaustion through their connection. Not quite. We still need to get out of here. There is a maintenance airlock, she said, drawing the knowledge from his military memories. Level 3, Section 22. They moved as quickly as Thalia's condition allowed, navigating through increasingly chaotic corridors as the colony's security forces mobilized. The transmitted evidence was already causing disruption. Workers argued. Security teams received contradictory orders. Confusion spread. They reached the airlock just as the first Alliance responders were being announced over the colony's communication system. The evidence had reached its destinations, and the reaction had been swift. As they secured the outer door behind them, Elliot allowed himself to truly look at Thalia for the first time since their mad dash began. Her silver skin was luminous even through the dulling agent, her violet eyes bright with a mixture of exhaustion and triumph. We did it, he said simply. Did you doubt we would? She asked, a smile playing at her lips. About 1,000 times. She moved closer, her hand finding his, their connection humming between them. In all my dream threads, this moment always felt the same. A hegemony officer approached them cautiously, hands raised in a non-threatening gesture. Lieutenant Vance, I'm Captain Lawrence, Alliance Special Division. We received the transmission. She eyed them both carefully. The Alliance has questions, many questions. I'll bet they do, Elliot replied, not releasing Thalia's hand. Your former commander is in custody, Lawrence continued. Evidence suggests your discharge was improper. The Alliance is prepared to offer reinstatement, with back pay and rank restoration. She paused. In exchange for your testimony, of course. Once, such an offer would have meant everything to Elliot. Redemption, restoration of his honor, vindication. He looked at Thalia, and through their bond felt her calm acceptance of whatever he might choose. "Thank you, Captain," he said finally, "but I have a prior commitment." Lawrence nodded, unsurprised. The Alliance would also value Solarian testimony regarding the hegemony's actions. We can arrange safe passage to any destination. 3 days later, aboard an Alliance diplomatic vessel bound for the outer colonies, Elliot and Thalia stood at a viewport watching Cerberus 9 recede into the distance. Reports from across Alliance space indicated the evidence they'd transmitted had created a diplomatic firestorm. The hegemony denied everything, of course, but the proof was irrefutable. "Your people's sanctuary colony," Elliot said. "Do you think they'll accept a human visitor?" Thalia's fingers intertwined with his, silver against tan. "They will accept the one who shares soul bond with a daughter of House Lumen." Her head tilted in that way he'd come to adore, though they may find it unprecedented.